Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new feature that I'm calling Fan Request. This one comes from SS Kenshin21, and he asked if I could take a look at Dragon Quest VIII on the iOS, and it's also, I guess you could say, same thing for Android. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buzz through certain scenes and just sort of walk you through the iOS version of Dragon Quest VIII. Now, I played about 2 hours. I played this on an iPad Pro, the 2019 version. So you'll notice that the game is fairly peppy. It runs rather well. Apparently, I'm just going to call you Kenshin, okay? Kenshin was saying that there was some sort of update or something like that, and he was curious to see, like, is the game better? Because this game was really destroyed by the press and the media and everyone else upon its release because, well, to be frank, it ran like garbage, okay? So I was kind of curious, but when I looked into the logs to see, well, what was actually done in terms of, bug fixes and stuff like that, well, the truth is not very much was done whatsoever. So I don't really know what has happened to this particular game. But I can say that it does run a little bit better than I remember it running years ago, which is a good thing. You'll notice that the game is in portrait mode. And that's the first thing with a lot of, actually with all of the Dragon Quest games that are on the iOS, or I was going to say the iPhone, but whatever, and on Android, is the fact that it's basically only playable in portrait mode. Now, the issue I have with that is it takes a little bit of getting used to. I mean, look at the screen, right? Look at how small the real estate is that's devoted to the actual game itself. I have Jessica and Yangus on the side there. I made this little custom sort of wallpaper because there's just so little of the screen being used. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this actually works. As you can see, you have this giant sort of directional button, and you can actually position that, and I only realized that after. You can position that in either to the left, to the right. You can actually make it a little bit smaller, which I do so that you actually see more of the screen. But I'm going to splice the video up and show you different segments as we go. So this first segment that you're seeing right here, and I'm going to play it out for basically for the entire intro, which is going to be about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I'll actually interspace this with different scenes of me running around. But I can tell you right now, there's no voice acting whatsoever. So you have to read everything, which is really cumbersome when you've played either the PlayStation 2 or the 3DS version. So what I can tell you right now is this is based, just look at the framing here. This is entirely based on the Japanese PlayStation 2 version. It's very, very simplistic. It's not based on the North American release. You'll also notice that by default, you don't select the actions for enemies. It's automatically set to well, here I just manually did it, but it's set to fight wisely. And for the majority of this, I actually kept it at fight wisely. So they'll use magic only when absolutely necessary. They'll primarily use just their basic skills like attack and stuff like that, and that's fine. I mean, that's perfectly fine. It's just I find a little bit cumbersome if you want to actually select what commands people are doing, so it's a little bit annoying. So now I'm going to stop this right here. I'm going to actually splice it up and show you guys what happens when you actually go and explore. So as you can see, this is a little bit cumbersome. So essentially, you're supposed to be able to play the game with one hand. That's the whole idea. And I don't like it, okay? I'll be really honest. I am not a big fan of this. Even when I customized it and put it to the left so I could use my left hand while holding the iPad and just to move the character around, I still don't like the fact that it's cumbersome with the camera. It's just not easy to navigate Like just look at this. It's just not easy. If I want to swap the camera around, I could theoretically just stop moving and then move the camera around, but I find it very, very cumbersome. I should also mention that the music is not orchestrated, so again, it's not based on the North American PlayStation 2 release, and it's most certainly not based on the 3DS version, so that I can also confirm. What I do like is, because they know that the sort of camera angles and stuff are a little bit cumbersome, they do have those explanation points and stuff, and like that you see a little smiley face. All you have to do is basically tap on that and you can trigger different actions, which I find actually really useful, because this isn't the easiest thing to play. It's really designed to be one-handed, and you'll notice that anytime I'm sort of in the city here trying to move around, I have a hard time. It's just not it's not the most intuitive at all. Now I'm going to show you guys actually running around in the overworld, because that's a little bit different. Okay, so we're going to head outside. You'll notice that I made the wheel a little bit smaller. You basically have two options. Eventually I'll throw that to the left. So as soon as we get outside here, things get very interesting. You can see the auto. Well, I realized quite quickly that as you run outside, if you trigger the auto run, then all you have to do is move the camera left and right, and that makes it so much easier. See what I mean? This I find much, much better. You just have to move your finger left, right, and you can slightly move it up and down. You'll also notice that right now I just have Fight Wisely, and I'm going to keep Fight Wisely for the entire duration. And I played all the way up until I reclaimed the crystal ball. Basically all I did was just got to the cave, I leveled up a couple of times, and that was pretty much it. It's a little cumbersome, I'm not gonna lie. It is indeed a little cumbersome, the different ways to like actually manually select your inputs, but it works, okay? And I think that is a compliment that I have to be able to give it. I'm not a huge fan of the portrait mode. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that there's no orchestrated music, there's no spoken dialogue. I don't really like any of that. In particular, because you do have access to the PlayStation 2 version in North America, and you also have access to the superior 3DS version, in the sense that you get 2 additional playable characters, you get an extended post-game with Mysteries Lane, I think it was called. All of that content is not found here. So it's, you know, I mean, if this is all you have access to, then okay, I guess, you know, it's serviceable, right? It certainly works, as you can see. It's just not, it's not great. Okay, what I wanted to show you guys here was just the fact that you can actually move items around your inventory, and you have access to skill points and all that sort of jazz, everything that you'd expect. So this is quite a bit later now. This is maybe like around 45 minutes to an hour into the game. I've leveled up quite a bit. I was able to go and purchase the boomerang for the hero. So all that kind of good stuff, all right? What I'm going to show you now is the fact that you're going to see a level up, and I'm going to show you how this works. So basically, very simply, you see level 4, yay, you get your points where you can allocate those points. You can say yes, you want to do it right now, and then you can go through the different stats that you have available, and you can update them. Okay, really simple stuff. It's nothing, you know, it's not a make or break. But one thing that is a little bit cumbersome is moving items around, and I'll show you that in just a sec. Okay, so you see this lovely chest. There's actually 2. I'm going to open both of these up, and then I'm going to show you how you swap items between characters and stuff. You'll notice that a lot of stuff by default goes directly into the bag, which I thought was kind of weird. So you just have to tap on the bag, tap on the item that you want, transfer it over to the character you want. You'll notice here that you can actually see the stats improving for the character that you want. Switch it over, You can equip it right away, and then you have to transfer out. It's a little bit cumbersome in the sense of, I find just there's a lot of back and forth. That's a little bit cumbersome, but overall, I mean, it works, right? And that's the whole thing with this sort of port, I think, is it is what it is. It works. It's not amazing. It's not wonderful, but it does work. Alright, so we're going to end off the video with just a little demonstration of the first boss, and I hope Kenshin enjoyed this, because he was asking for sort of an overview. I think I've provided everything that you would need to see. I showed you a little bit of the first town, a little bit of the overworld, show you how the fight mechanics work, the fact that it's really tactics based, but you can still input manual commands if you want. What else was there? There was the whole transferring back and forth, and I mean, the rest is just, it is what it is. It's a Dragon Quest, right? So you head on to churches to save, and so on and so forth. It's Dragon Quest. It really is. The downside with this particular port is the fact, like I said, that it's really based on the Japanese version of the PlayStation 2 game, and because of that, you don't get all the bells and whistles that you do in other versions of this game that are readily available. Yeah, you could argue and say that the PlayStation 2 version isn't really readily available, but the 3DS version is, and it's far, far superior to this. There's no random encounters, there's voice acting, and there's a ton of post-game content. The other thing I should mention is that this game does not support controllers. So if you have a controller, you're just out of luck, which really sucks. It really, really sucks, because most of the Final Fantasy games and most of the more recent Square-Enix releases in terms of like retro games, they all do support controllers. So this one and all the other Dragon Quest games that are on iOS and Android do not support controllers, and that really is unfortunate, because this is actually not horrible. It's just, it's the worst version of the game that's available in so much as the reasons that I've said. It's not that it's garbage, it's just that there are better versions of the game available. That said, if you only have a phone, well, so long as it's a newer phone or iPad, because I did try this on, you know, like I said, iOS, then, I mean, it's serviceable. If you want to experience the game, you don't have any other method to experience it, well, you can go ahead and pick this up for under $30 and away you go. That's Canadian. I have no idea how much it costs in the United States or elsewhere. So this is pretty much it. This is a look at Dragon Quest VIII on the iOS or iPhone or iPad. I mentioned this on Twitter if you happen to follow our Twitter feed, but Dragon Quest VII was actually released on iOS but exclusively in Japan, and that's rather unique. I'm not sure why that is. So if anyone would like to see that version of the game, by all means, let me know. And since this is a new feature, if anyone has any requests, by all means, submit your requests for videos you'd like to see. And I can't promise I'll do every single one of them, but I can certainly try. And I like original ideas like this, because this is a game that I played a long time ago and absolutely hated it on phone. But now it is a serviceable release, except I don't really understand why anyone want to play this version when you have a far superior version that's easily available on the 3DS. With that, I shall say adieu. I will see you all later. I hope you enjoyed this feature. Kenshin 21 or SS Kenshin 21. I hope you enjoyed, and if anyone else has any other recommendations for videos they'd like to see, leave a comment, let me know, and with that I'll say I'll catch you all in the next video.